Neymar Jr., a global footballing icon, known for his creativity, style and technical genius on the pitch. Now in 2024, as he enters the twilight of his career, he continues to captivate fans in Saudi. Today, the hype around young talents like Endrick and Lamine Yamal light up the headlines. But what did hype look like for a young Neymar 15 years ago? In today's episode of Football Time Machine, we're taking a deep dive into Neymar's early years. What did the world say about him when he was just starting out? And how did he go from hopeful prospect to an international sensation? Plenty of people suggest that Neymar Jr. was the most hyped young talent ever, because that's even how I remember it. But was this necessarily true? Today, I guess we'll find out. I've spent the last 5 months going back in time, unearthing football predictions from the deepest, darkest pits of the internet, and the results were shocking. Neymar's story begins in Sao Paulo, where he displayed extraordinary skill and passion from a very young age. By the age of 11, he joined Santos FC's youth academy, the same club that launched the careers of legends like Pelé. In these formative years, Neymar quickly stood out, dazzling coaches and teammates with his agility, dribbling, and unique vision. In 2005, Neymar's talents were noticed beyond Brazil, as when he had just turned 14, he received an invitation to train with Real Madrid's youth team, and for 2 weeks in Spain, he practiced with the likes of future stars like Pablo Sarabia, Alvaro Morata and Alex Fernandez. So convinced by his ability, Madrid had even prepared a home for Neymar's family in Spain, hoping to secure him for their academy. But in the end, Santos refused to let him go, understanding that Neymar's potential could be something truly special. And with him getting a little bit homesick, whilst Madrid may have regretted out on one of the biggest talents in the next generation, Neymar returned to Brazil where his journey continued. So we're going right back to 2006. Neymar has just rejected Real Madrid Academy around this time. Barcelona, Madrid, Arsenal, Manchester United and Milan are all interested in Brazilian wonder kid Neymar da Silva. He is being dubbed the new Robinho. So at this stage, he's not the next Pelé, but Robinho was such a shining light around this time. I think he had just signed for Real Madrid in 2005 that, he was the next Robinho. That's how good Robinho was. You don't really think about that nowadays. Neymar is a child prodigy who lives and breathes football. All he does is play football in the street, in the backyard, any place possible. He makes it possible. It was his addiction to the game that made his father get Santos to take interest in him. In the youth ranks, he won the 2004 Brazilian Championships, and his idol is Robinho, who himself is only 21 years old, and that's where the comparisons were drawn at the time. With that electric pace, skill, stepovers, he pretty much was the next Robinho, but 6 or 7 years younger. It's crazy to think how big of a shining star Robinho was in 2006. Was the pride of Brazil at this point, and we have youngsters being compared to him 15 years later. No one really remembers Robinho like we should have. That's crazy. And obviously we don't want to talk about him because of, what he's been involved in recent times. In 2006, he says, "I wish Neymar goes to Barcelona now, and in 5 years' time, we see him in the Barcelona first team. I think in seasons to come, we'll have Lionel Messi, Giovanni dos Santos, and Christian in the team. They'll play a major role in our success." This guy has predicted that Neymar and Messi will play together in 5 years' time in 2006. Whilst Neymar and Messi went on to become one of the most devastating attacks in football in the 2014-15 season, you had players like Giovanni dos Santos who'd gone to Villarreal, not quite making it, and players like Bojan, who was at Stoke at that stage. In football, we think about how players peak at different times, but no one actually thinks about players who actually peak at a really young age. And that's the highest they'll ever make it. Giovanni dos Santos and Bojan are two massive players, especially Bojan, broke all of Messi's records, but he had peaked at such a young age, 17, 18, and never quite made it into that first team. The new Robinho? It was only 2 minutes ago that Robinho was the new Pelé. We're going to get to a point where we'll be labelling players after players who aren't even playing yet. This kid's going to be as good as Messi's son. But we still don't know 15 years later how good Thiago Messi is. But I'm sure we will get to a stage where they will be saying that. Neymar would go on to outshine Robinho completely and be the next Pelé rather than the next Robinho. Robinho's career tailed off after that that move to City because he was unhappy that he wouldn't be the star man, because there was talks of Cristiano joining Real Madrid, and that move killed his career completely. In 2007, Real Madrid have signed 15-year-old striker Neymar from Santos. His transfer was agreed in 2005 as part of the Robinho deal. Barcelona and Arsenal wanted him. He's apparently the next Robinho. He trained at Real Madrid youth system and scored 16 goals in 5 games. So Neymar had trained with the Real Madrid youth system, so rumours surrounding Neymar had signed for Real Madrid because Robinho had signed for Real Madrid were all false. It didn't happen. Neymar got homesick and ended up going home. Wild to think as early as 2006-07 that he was there making a name for himself in Madrid. 15 years later, he was there in Madrid again, still making a name for himself. Barcelona could play 5 up front: Bojan, Giovanni dos Santos, Messi, Iniesta, and Xavi. We know 4 of those 6 ended up being a part of one of the best Barcelona teams ever in 2014-15. But it's crazy to think that they were talking about that back in 2007. By 2008, Neymar was a rising star in Brazilian football. Every big European club wanted Neymar, and Santos was already rumoured to be setting a €30 million price tag on him. In 2009, at just 17 years old, Neymar made his senior debut for Santos. Despite his young age, he scored 3 goals in his first 5 games, showcasing maturity beyond his years. His speed, technical ability and confidence made him a standout performer. The media frenzy around Neymar in Brazil was immense, fueled by the likes of Sao Paulo press and European transfer market. Santos hoped he wouldn't end up like other Brazilian teenage sensations who had failed to meet expectations, such as Corinthians' Lilinha or even the great Robinho, whose rise had been somewhat slower. Milan are keeping an eye on the Santos hitman Neymar with a view of signing him. The Santos player is highly regarded in Brazil, and the legendary Pelé had recently started saying that Neymar could be better than he was. So in 2009, Neymar was beginning to get the recognition from not only the whole of Brazil, but the legend Pelé himself was saying that he could be better than him. If Pelé is saying things like that, I know Pelé has said some pretty mad shit in the past, so he's not to be trusted massively, but when someone like Pelé says things like that, he's going to turn heads of everyone in the world. I've been watching Neymar for the first time and I'm thoroughly impressed. Is he football's biggest promise? If not, who else is better? So at the time, in 2009, the biggest stars in the world are obviously Ronaldo, Messi. Who else is bigger than them at the time? They took the throne around that time. Kaká maybe. And Neymar is the biggest promise in the world. And as much as we say the hype was there, no one had really touted him as going to be the next big thing. He was always going to be the next Robinho. So at this point, people are starting to realise this kid is really different. And he's slowly just been making his way through the ranks of Santos. And of course, Pelé finally made the comment about him being better than him, and now everyone's noticing how good he actually is. It's funny that even in football, it's who you know. I've only watched him in 3 games for Santos, against Corinthians, in the Paulista, and against Palmeiras, and so far, I'm not impressed. So maybe he could be the next Robinho, but I don't think more than this. He is a really promising player, but the way people comment about him could be a disappointment like Lilinha. It must be Lilinha. I haven't heard about him personally. Maybe in a future episode we'll have to look into like failed Brazilian promised stars. Lilinha is a name that comes up a lot. I think a lot of football enthusiasts in Brazil didn't want to get ahead of themselves with stars like Neymar because they had seen a lot of failed promising stars. Should he go to Chelsea or Europe? He's only 17. Should he even be thinking of Europe yet? It feels like we're kind of mirroring the Estavo comments right now. Estavo has just broken all of the records in Brazilian football at such a young age, and Chelsea had already tapped him up last year. This is before he's broken all these records. So it looks like Estavo is going to follow this similar path. But a lot of Brazilian forums that I'm looking at say that the Premier League is not suited to these young Brazilians. So do we think that Estavo is going to be a success over in Europe or not? He's breaking all these records as a 17-year-old. Can he live up to the expectations that he is? Is he going to be one of the best players in the world like Neymar ended up being? If Neymar is the biggest talent in the world today, I'm sure I'll dislike football played in some years' time. Jesus, this guy is a hater. He hates the beautiful game. If he's saying that if Neymar is going to be one of the biggest talents in the world today, I will dislike the football played in some years' time. The 2009 Under-17 World Cup Brazil team will be spearheaded by the fearsome duo of Neymar and Philippe Coutinho, who have already captured the imagination of the Brazilian public and given future opponents a stark warning. The 2 biggest stars coming out of Brazil are Neymar and Philippe Coutinho, who we know are probably 2 of the best footballers in the last decade to come from Barcelona. You see their names mentioned a lot in these forums, and to be fair, both of them lived up to the expectation. Neymar interest is growing from Chelsea and Man City in the hunt for his signature. The 17-year-old is a first-team player for Santos and has been hailed as one of South America's young stars for the past 12 months. Around this time, Chelsea have huge links to Neymar. I can remember this myself in 2008, 2009. This is just around when Ancelotti came to Chelsea, and he had a brilliant record with young Brazilians like Kaká, you know, at AC Milan. So there was like huge hype around the Chelsea fan base that we were going to bring this young Scarlet Neymar to England. Pato cost nearly 20 mil. I don't think we'll get Neymar for less than that. You pay top dollars to get top young players. Atletico paid big money for Aguero. Milan also paid big money to get Pato, and look at them now. So Aguero and Pato were massive stars at a really young age. So the Chelsea fan base were like, look at what they've done. We need to pay whatever it costs to get Neymar for like 30 million. Think today, signing a Neymar for 30 million would be absolute pennies. You pay such big money for these young players now. Like, you know, your Caicedos, your Enzos are £100 million players that Chelsea have bought. Bowley would do it nowadays. Even though I don't think Santos wanted to let Neymar go. Neymar himself had said, yeah, it'd be an honour to play for Chelsea. So there was so much hype surrounding the Chelsea-Neymar transfer around this time, and it never came of anything. Then you have the AC Milan fan base saying that according to Wikipedia, Neymar is only 2 centimetres taller than Giovinco. I don't think we'd take the risk. Giovinco was small. I remember him being really small. I think Neymar is a bit taller than him, but he wouldn't want to take the risk because he's too small, mate. He's too small. Even though the best player in the world is the smallest man on the pitch most of the time with Lionel Messi and even N'Golo Kante, but you don't want to take the risk, mate. Neymar, it's not worth it. Neymar, Wellington, Douglas, Alex Teixeira, Schneider and Robben would be the 2 best replacements in the Bundesliga. So I think we're talking about Bayern Munich here. Bayern Munich fans saying that Schneider and Robben would be the 2 best players to replace Ribéry in the Bayern Munich team. We know that Robben left Real Madrid for Bayern Munich, so that did actually happen, and that became one of the best winger combinations in Europe. But they were asking, should we bring in Neymar, Wellington, Douglas Costa and Alex Teixeira? Douglas Costa ended up going to Bayern Munich as well. Crazy bit of foresight there. Hernandez is going on to be a bigger success. He can't flop. Neymar, he's a walking flop. So much hype around Hernandez. He was a good player. He was a good centre mid, but I just don't understand whether people were actually saying Neymar was going to be a flop because there was so much hype around him. They believed he was going to be a flop, like Lilinho or the few other characters that they bring up around this time. I can't remember Hernandez being anything too special in his career. Nothing compared to Neymar in the end. In 2011, Neymar's fame extended beyond Brazil. He helped Santos to a historic Copa Libertadores win and captured attention of fans and scouts worldwide. It was clear that Neymar was no ordinary player. It was only a matter of time before Europe came along again. Neymar and Ganso are the crown jewels of Santos' new generation. The Brazilian public have clamoured for the pair's inclusion in the World Cup roster. So Ganso is a massive name that comes up alongside Neymar in his later years at Santos. And it's a name I don't even know. It looks like he did kind of fall off and play his career in Brazil, whilst Neymar's trajectory just went through the roof. But like Lilinho, Ganso were 2 really hyped players in Brazil who never quite made it that next step. And I think they deserve an episode of their own to like look at these, you know, really hyped stars who a lot of people talked about around the time. Neymar Ballon d'Or. Neymar is great. I don't like him. Actually, I hate him. But Robinho at this age didn't do half the stuff that Neymar regularly does. Robinho was 100% tricks and would score some goals. Neymar is a good dribbler. Neymar is finally beginning to beat the allegations that he's the next Robinho. In 2010, he's finally getting calls for a Ballon d'Or at 18 years old. At 17, 18, Ronaldo and Messi were getting those best player in the world shouts. Neymar is finally getting those shouts. This guy goes so far as to say that he actually hates Neymar, which is probably through that bad boy reputation around the time, a bit of a naughty boy. This Spurs fan says, Neymar and Hulk, please, Mr. Levy. I don't think he ever wanted to go to Spurs. I'll be honest with you, mate. Did anyone see Neymar play last night? I mean, everyone's heard of him at this point as being the next Pele. But can we really take that call seriously anymore? So many players have been called the next Pele. This kid, though, could be the next Pele. He scored 3 goals in 3 international starts at 19 years old. In 2011, he's 19 years old. He's starting for Brazil now. There's no more the next Robinhos. He is now the next Pele. He's finally broken through and eclipsed Robinho at this stage. Fair play. Around 19, I can remember in FIFA 11 actually starting to use him at this stage. I can remember there being hype around him because I can remember signing him on FIFA 11 for like my derby save. In 2013, Neymar finally made the move to Europe, signing for Barcelona for 57 million euros, leaving Santos to join a roster that included global superstars like Lionel Messi. While adapting to European football was challenging, Neymar rose to the occasion, refining his game and continuing to rise to fame. By the end of his debut season in Europe, he was a fan favourite at the Camp Nou. Over the next few seasons, Neymar formed 1/3 of the most iconic attacking trios in football history, alongside Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez. Together they led Barcelona to tremendous success, including a treble-winning season in 14-15. Neymar's brilliance on the field was undeniable. He dazzled fans with his flair, scored in critical moments, and consistently ranked amongst the world's best players. Yet despite his undeniable talent and achievements, including 2 more La Liga titles and a Copa del Rey, Neymar could never quite escape Messi's shadow at Barcelona. He was admired and adored, but the title of the prince that never became the king lingered over him. A nod to the fact that he had the skill, ambition and charisma to become the best in the world, but would always orbit Messi's greatness. But in 2017, he somewhat fulfilled all of that potential that had led up to this moment by becoming the world's most expensive football player ever, with a record-breaking move to PSG for 222 million euros, with the aim to step out of the shadows of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo in La Liga. But then he would face the difficult reality of building his own legacy in an era defined by these 2 football greats. Had Neymar emerged in a different generation, many believe that he would be the undisputed king of football. But playing in the Messi-Ronaldo era, his story became that this immense talent who reached incredible heights never fully captured the throne. As with every legend, it had to start somewhere. Thank you so much for joining me on this special episode of the Football Time Machine. We are smashing these out at the moment and you guys are loving them, so I'm going to continue to do them. There's so much we can do with this series, and maybe one day we can actually do one which involves talking to a player on their potential as a youngster and see firsthand what it actually means to these athletes at such a young age and where they ended up in their career. That's the aim. We'll see if we can get there. Suggest some players that you think may have gone on for success and some that didn't live up to the success, like Bojan we've seen in this episode, or Giovanni dos Santos. There's plenty of players who didn't really reach the heights they were meant to, but were talked about immensely in these forums or in magazines back in the day. Other than that, I hope you've enjoyed and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.